Hi, welcome back to the CAD Corner. Today we'll be exploring how to print drawings from AutoCAD. So, you have completed that assignment or fully developed your working drawings, and now it's time to build the Death Star. What's next? Printing, or plotting as we call it in CAD. There are a few things to note before diving into CAD. One is the paper you'll plot on will depend on the paper stock availability in your country. Locally, the easiest ready to print large format paper stock we use is called tabloid or 11 by 17. That's because the paper measures 11 inches on the short side, 17 inches on the long side. But because locally we also use a metric unit or the metric system, we have to convert when using CAD. So let's look at how to turn DWGs into PDFs in CAD. Let's head on over. So I went ahead and I did the calculation, and I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see it. First, what I did was I took 11 inches and I multiplied it by 25.4, and I got 279.4 millimeters for the height. That is converting the short side of the paper, in this case, into millimeters, and the long side also millimeters. So that's the measurement that we get when we calculate it. So let's look at this. Let's draw this now. We're going to draw a rectangle that is going to represent our paper. So I'm going to switch to the line tool. I'm going to go to the construction layer, and I'm going to specify a point. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to make sure that the ortho is on in this case, and ensure that snap to grid is off. And I'm going to use the short side, the long side, and that is 431 millimeters, 431.8 millimeters. Hit enter. And then I'm going to now draw the short side, and that is 279.4 millimeters. So that is 279.4. Enter. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to draw the long side again. 431.8. Hit enter, and then press C to close, and that's our rectangle. You could also draw a rectangle or any other method to basically obtain this shape, right? But the thing that matters is that one side is 279.4 and the other side is 431.8, right? So now that you have the paper, we're gonna go ahead and just add our title block. I'm gonna go ahead and add a title block. So in order to add the title block, I'm going to use the offset tool. So O, enter, select or set the measurement that I want to offset to. That will be, in this case, 10 millimeters. And then the object is here, and pick it and drag down. Select this and drag up. Select this line here and drag to the left. Select this line here and drag to the right, and that is basically my border. This is my vertical border on the left, vertical border on the right, lower horizontal border, and upper horizontal border. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to trim, TR, enter twice. I'm going to trim the border so that it fits exactly on the edge. So basically your border goes from edge to edge, right? Then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move these lines to the outline layer. I'm going to move these to the outline layer so that I'm looking at outlines, right? Because later on we'll be deleting the paper. When we move this to paper space, we'll be deleting this. All right, so before we go there, let us finish the border. So now I have my border, and I'm going to offset, hit enter, or O, because trim was the last command I used. And I'm going to offset through a distance of 10 millimeters, which is already there because AutoCAD remembers the measurements. Hit enter, and I'm going to select the object, drag up, and do it again. And basically that is now part of my title block. I then am going to offset this line down, but I'm going to change the measurement, so I'm going to put 3 millimeters, and then I'm going to select the object, you drag down, select this, drag up, select, drag down, select, drag up. Then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change these lines, and I'm going to put them on the construction layer. And the reason why I move them to the construction layer is because these are the border lines, or this will be the no inside border line, right? And these are just little hidden lines, or not hidden but construction lines that guide where I want my text to appear. Right, so now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create some other guidelines that will sort of guide the flow for my text fields. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add, I'm going to divide this line here into 3. So I'm going to use the divide command, div, and hit enter. I'm going to select the object I want to divide, which is that line, and it says enter the number of segments. So I hit 3, enter, and then it's divided in 3. Then I'm going to just simply go to the outline layer, and I'm going to draw some lines from these points down. Alright, so line tool. I'm going to ensure that node is on in my object snap modes, and maybe endpoint, and maybe midpoint, and intersection is already on. So those are the most frequent ones we use. So I'm going to draw a line from there down. Alright, hit enter, do it again for the other side. TR to trim, enter twice, and trim those lines. Okay, then you can go ahead and delete the points. Those are just there as guides, right? Because those points will plot, so you don't want them to plot or print in your final drawing, right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some text here, right, to create the various fields that will occupy the title block for the drawings, right? Because it's not just for one drawing, this will be how you can create it for all your drawings in the future. So once you create a title block and your title block and border, you won't have to do this again. Most of the stuff here will be automatic. You may just have to change the topic from class to class, but this is something you can bring back in and use multiple times. That's the beauty about CAD. It allows for automation and quick thinking and quick doing things quickly. Right? That's the benefit. Alright, so let's move further. Let us add the name field. So because you're preparing for exams or external exams, you're going to add name of candidate. Right? So we're going to add name of candidate, multi-line text. I'm going to pick here, and I'm going to pick the lower corner over there, and then I'm going to put a space, type NA, but I'm typing in lowercase. I want to be in uppercase letters. NA, name of CANDIDATE, put a colon right there, and then I'm gonna type my name. Alright, so let's say I'm the industrialist Crooks. What happens? We have a problem. The text field is actually, because you have some people whose names will be longer than some, the text field switches to the next line, because it's multi-line text and we have exceeded the little section that we set out for name field. But never worry, all we have to do is just extend it beyond. So we extend it to maybe here. That's fine. Do you want to save the text? Yes. So you can see that my name is going to the other line. All I'm going to do is I'm going to move this line here over. But because my snap mode is on, it's asking me to move it. So I'm going to move it. Say I move it roughly 2 millimeters over. That way, can do it the same down here. Move it roughly 2 millimeters over. Again down there. So then now we have our line moved to give us more space, because there's nothing set in stone that this has to be a specific size, right? For this, you basically have the freedom to create a custom title block so that all your fields can fit. So I have my name, that will never change. The industrialist Mr. Crooks, that's not going to change. And then I can add my class. So I'm going to add my class. So for that, I'll have to draw another, but I have to turn on my snaps to be able to snap, and I'll draw and expand to down, so maybe halfway, right? Because class only takes up a small amount of space. So my class is 12 EG, and let's say close the text editor. I can then add a next line midway here, so that the line that is drawn midway here separates the class. But issue that we have here is that our text is starting. This is the benefit of multi-line text, because you can just simply go double click back in the text box and edit it and close. So now I've created some separation between the class field and the line there. So now I'm going to add a next line here, and that's fine. All right, so trim, enter twice, delete that. I may not need this line down here, so I delete that. All right, so now I have name, class. All right, you can actually put, if you're putting in, you're just drawing one viewport or one using a single viewport, you could add the scale down here for the drawings. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to trim this line here, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add my date up here. So this part is a simple trick, right? I'm gonna go ahead and add date, but because dates change, this is something that the computer knows. You can take advantage of that. Whatever the date is, you can create an automatic field that updates by itself. So as long as you are in CAD, you're using CAD, and you are ready to export your drawing, your date field will match the date that is set on your computer's clock, right? So as long as your CMOS battery is good and you have automatically updated your dates, your date should be right. So let's go ahead and do this. So I'm going to add again multi-line text. So I'm going to start here, drag from that corner here to this corner down there, because I want the text to sit on the thin lines. I'm going to put a space. I'm going to write date as my heading. All right. And then I'm going to add a field. So what I'm going to go do is come up to this area right here. When you're in the text editor, you'll see this pop up. So you add field, and then you just search, because when you open, you'll be looking at this, right? But you don't want all. What you're going to do is you're going to go to date and time, select date and time, and I'm just going to add general date, and then this is the format that I want right here. However, if you notice something about this date format, it's in proper text or sentence case, because we're seeing here that the February, the F in the February is a capital letter, but the rest of it are common letters, and we want it to appear in all caps. So we have to edit the date format up here and add a little bit of code, just a little bit of code, and we're just going to add a percentage sign, right, and then TC1, right? So you notice the field expression down here changes, and then all you have to do is hit OK, and then the date will appear in all caps. All right, if you don't do that, it will be sentence case. All right, so let's draw a line behind our date field. Let's just draw a line tool. I'm going to select, I'm going to turn off that, make sure my ortho is on, draw a line down here. All right, use a trim tool, TR, enter twice, delete that, the top part of the line, delete the lower part of the line, and then I'm going to add a bit of instruction here. I'm going to put multi-line text, and I'm going to select, make sure my snap mode is on, select the intersection of the outline and the construction line and bring it all the way across to here, and then I'm going to put a space to separate my text from the borderline, and I'm going to put all dimensions in right, and I'm going to close right here. All right, so that, because this is something that won't change and I want you to note about my drawings, all my dimensions will be in millimeters from now to the future. Then I'm going to add the subject name here. So I'm going to, again, multi-line text, draw a text box, add it in there, the space. I'm going to write subject as a heading, put a colon, and the subject is technical drawing. And then I'm going to close the text editor. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to delete this line right here, and then I'm just going to write topic and leave the rest of it open. All right, so I'm going to add a next multi-line text right here. I'm going to draw from this corner to this corner down here, and I'm going to put a space. I'm going to write topic as a heading, but because the topic is something that I will have to know and write per paper or per drawing, I'm not going to do anything else from there because I'll have to edit this each time. All right, so that's the topic that I'm covering. All right, so there you have it. You have your all set paper with title block. Now you're going to take this title block and paper and copy it over to what we call the layout space. So let's switch over to the layout space. So I'm going to click on the layout space, and there you'll see a sheet of paper, right, already set up there with a viewport. So this box that you see in here is called a viewport, and what it does, it allows you to basically look through the paper space into the modeling space. So you're looking from the layout space into the model space. So let's switch back to the layout space, and we're going to go ahead, and you can go ahead and delete this because you'll be learning how to draw or create your own viewports. And then we're going to configure our paper to match what we are printing to. So we're going to go right click and hit page setup manager, or you can go ahead and type page setup, hit enter, and it brings it to the same dialog box. So now you're seeing the current page, which is here. You can either create a new page or modify. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to create a new layout, and I'm going to set the name, and let me call it template. So I call it template and I hit OK. Now we are in the page setup dialog, And what we're going to do from here is we're going to change a few things. So we're going to change our printer. If you have printers installed, your printer will show here. But not all printers can print large format, as I stated before. So if you don't have a printer connected that can print large format, what you'll have to do is you'll have to print it to a PDF file. So you convert your drawing first to a PDF file, and then from the PDF file, you take it to a print shop, Kinko's, or locally, hot off the press, or Jamar Printer. That's the next one. Jamar Printer, hot off the press, and others. Right, Paperboy. Those are the places that print locally in Kingston. So I'm going to select AutoCAD to PDF, or AutoCAD PDF high quality, and then I'm going to go ahead and you notice here also that you're getting a preview, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change this from ISO, and I'm going to use ANSI because the paper that we use is really of an American standard. Tabloid paper is of an American standard, so that's why we have to change from ISO to ANSI. So ANSI, and I'm going to look for 17 by 11 because the title block that I created in this case is wider than it is tall. So using that, right? And then now we have to ensure that our scale is set. So our scale needs to be 25.4. So 1 inch equal 25.4 units. Alright. So ensure that your plot style is on monochrome so that when you export your drawings, everything converts over to being black and white. Alright. White for the paper and black for the ink. So yeah, double check everything, and I'm gonna hit OK and exit. So my new template layout is set here. So in order for me to convert this paper back here to a template or to the new template that I created, I'm going to have to select template, and then I'm going to have to select set current. Then notice my background scales up. Right, I'm just gonna hit close. After I hit close, I'll be left with this paper here with nothing on it. What I'm gonna do here now is pretty simple, but it's sort of key. I'm going to switch back over to my model space, and I'm going to select my template that I drew earlier, and I'm going to press Ctrl C. Right, well, I'm going to go to the clipboard. I'm going to press Ctrl Shift C. Right, so look, hit Ctrl Shift and C, and then it says specify a base point. I'm going to set a base point here. So this is different from Ctrl C. Ctrl Shift C allows you to copy something and specify a base point. The reason why I chose the left lowermost point as a base point is because it will be pretty easy to match up when I go over to the layout space. So I'm going to press Ctrl V, and then all I have to do is zoom in, and to make it even easier, all I have to do is ensure that I enable line weight here, so I can simulate the line weight. So when I turn that on, you'll get a thicker line, so then you can go directly to the corner and match the paper. So you can see that I'm matching the paper directly there, and I click, and then basically my title block is fitting the paper. Then from here now, all I have to do is remember to delete the lines, because some printers do print outside the margin, or they print much larger papers than 11 by 17, so you'll be able to see those lines. So you delete that, and there you basically have it. Your paper is set up, right, to actually accommodate your drawings. But before I go further, I want to actually save this as a template, so then now if you're doing a next drawing outside of these drawings or your activities, you can just bring it back in. You don't have to draw it again from scratch. So let us do that. So I'm going to go to File here, and I'm going to go to Save As, and then I'm going to use a folder here, the industrialist, and I'm going to create a DWT file. So let us go and let us call it I'm gonna go to documents. I have a custom location here. All right, so in here I'm going to create a folder and call it on my thumb drive, or in this location. I'm going to copy it to my thumb drive later. Template file. Alright, so I have a folder there called template file. Save, or open this folder rather, and then I have to save it as a name. I have to add a name before I save. So the name that I'm going to give it is 11, no, let's call it 17 by 11 drawing template. Alright, so I name it and then I save it. So I save it now as 17 by 11 drawing template. Hit save, then I hit OK, and that is now saved, so you can bring it back in later on. But the final thing that you should know how to do right now is actually how to add a viewport, so then you can then bring your drawings from the model space into the paper space. So I'm gonna go in right now and I'm going to add a viewport. So viewport, so you type viewports, select viewports, and the type of viewport I'm going to use is 4, because my assignment sheet states that I should have 4 drawings on one paper. So I'm going to use that. If the assignment sheet says that you should have a single drawing, you can bring in a single drawing. See, this is a preview of the viewport. If it says 2, it can be 2 vertical or 2 horizontally placed viewports. It can be 3 with 1 to the right being larger, 3, 1 to the left being the largest. All right, so we're gonna go ahead now and we are going to select 4, press OK, and I'm going to drag out a viewport from this corner here to this corner down here. And then you're going to notice something sort of strange happens. All the drawings within your file that you have created appear. So all you have to do is double click in the viewport and scale them to let them fit inside the viewport window. Alright, so you have to click outside the box here if you want to be outside the viewport and to move the paper around. If you try to just click and drag, you'll be dragging and moving the viewport. So to go back in there again, you double click, zoom in, right? But notice now that my drawing and words and everything is set to 1.19, the scale of what it should be. I want it to be 1 to 1, so I'm going to select 1 to 1, and then notice now that my drawing is 1 to 1 on the paper. So that means if I take a rule and I measure from A to B, this triangle here will be 60 millimeters by 60 millimeters by 60 millimeters. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my text box here so that it fits within the window, and I'm going to move it. I'm going to drag over, pan over a little bit, and I'm going to move this so that it's like here. It's snapping to the grid. So let me turn off snap to grid. I'm going to turn off also ortho so I can move it sort of freeform, and I want it roughly about here. Right, I'm press escape, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this heading to the paper space. All my headings and all my lettering, I'm going to move them to the paper space so that they're basically set and they have no chance of moving, right, or shifting, and they'll be one constant size. So I'm going to go ahead, press escape, I'm going to select it, and I'm going to type CHSPACE. So change space, Select that, and I'm going to, it says what? Set the source viewport and press enter to continue. So I set the source viewport, which is the model space, right? And I'm going to press enter to continue. So now this word appears on the paper. See, it's on the paper space. So that is how you move objects from the model space to the paper space. So if you should go to the drawing now, you'll realize that the heading is gone. It's moved to the paper space. Right? So when you go to layout or the paper space, you'll see the drawings here. Now, from here, you can move all your other drawings or all your other letters to the paper space. You want to do that so that the scale of your letters is constant, right? So that your letters will always be 4 millimeters high, right? So it'll look constant and it'll look tidy. So now you double click within the viewport and you turn off the grid for that viewport. And don't worry if the scale changes. All you have to do is go back and set it to 1 to 1. Now it's 1 to 1 again. You can select each one of your letters. Select each one of your letters and type CHSPACE. Hit enter and then press enter again. And these letters now are on the paper space, right? So they are more consistent or constant. You can double click outside and zoom in to see if the letters are touching. You don't want anything touching so it looks untidy. So basically you'd have one drawing set up there, so you can go in now on your own time and zoom and scale and ensure that all your drawings fit on the paper and it looks neat and properly done and tidy. If you have an arc that is extending too long, you can trim the arc. You can, you know, change the radius or the arc length rather. So just go ahead and do that. Set them. You can double click again, turn off the grid. Basically you get the idea, right? So that is pretty much how you plot or publish your drawings. Now you only have one thing to do. If you're complete, you'll go to application menu and then you go to export and you go to export as a PDF. Then you select where you want your drawing to go to. You can rename this file, rename it to triangles if that is what you want. If that is what it is, triangles. And then I hit save. And when it does its thing and reset, your drawing would be plot. So it tells you plot and print and publish job rather is complete and no errors were found. And you can click to view the details. So it will tell you the details where it's saved to and such. So then you can close that and then you can head to your documents, documents folder, and you can see the drawing as it was. But you should go in and scale all your drawings, right, before you export. So you go in and you set up everything, you export, and then basically from here you're ready to print. All you have to do, take it to your printer and print your drawing. So check the description of the video for the navigational notes which lead to the specific parts of the video. Right now you basically know how to configure AutoCAD to export then print your drawings. What else would you like to know? Go ahead and leave them in the comment section below. That's a wrap. Go ahead, make sure you like the video, subscribe for more, and share this video with someone who needs help with AutoCAD as we explore more in engineering and technology.